And so, thank you.
I take this approach. Basically, social justice, I like to just look at what the definition is first, based on, how it's defined and then how I perceive it. But the definition says social justice is justice in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society. So I like that definition because it actually points to exactly what it says. It's a very broad term. Social justice is very broad. But in this definition, it kind of indicates that there are different levels to what that actually means when it comes to wealth, privilege, and things like that. I think a lot of times we understand the more general term of social justice and we speak for that, but we tend to keep things very broad. And I think in this case, we need to learn to be a little more specific in speaking about what social justice is, because, well, you just like when you go to a courtroom, you have to speak about specifics of a case. But in our society, social justice overall is equality and everybody having the same rights and things like that. But I think with each case, we have to kind of also know that sometimes you have to navigate a little bit differently based on what it is and be a little bit more specific from one thing to another. But we all tend to just gravitate towards the broad, blanketed terms and really not really getting specific a lot. So I think this requires a lot of specificity. So I'll just say social justice is very broad. I think that it's, like in other terms, I think sometimes it's used way too broad in our society, but we don't have a very strong understanding of what it actually means in different levels down the, breaking it apart and things, kind of like the definition, broken apart in different facets. So, and it's important to get informed and educated on what those different things are within that whole blanketed term of social justice. And I think that we need to make more progress if we understand those things.
All right. So the next question for the panel, based on social justice and based on Pasadena here, the Pasadena Police has not had any real involvement with this community, the Northwest community, since Anthony's shooting. We've tried to communicate with them to say we need trauma services for the community, we need outreach, we need engagement. What would you share with the audience that is needed from your experience? So we're going to start with you first, Ricky.
Okay, I know, I've been getting away with it, right? Okay, well, do you mind repeating the question one more time?
So basically, and for you, Ricky, it probably would be best to just kind of speculate based on what you've seen in this video, certainly the impact it's had on this community. What would you say from your experience would be something you would share with the city that they should take action to help this community with?
Personally, I mean, I think that the city has heard everything that it needs to hear. At this point, I think a lot of times it's just down to we're not listening, so, and to some degree. So, that's when one thing that the city has to abide by are laws. It doesn't matter. There's a quote Martin Luther King said a long time ago. It was something along the lines of, I can't convince a man to not lynch me, but if there's a law in place, it can certainly protect me from that. The thing is, making sure these laws and things are really, really enforced is important. Very, very important. That's why I keep saying getting involved in this system, really seeing what these laws actually say. They're not specific enough. That's why I keep driving in specificity. There's like, okay, you have civil rights, but what does that actually mean for certain communities? What does that mean? We gotta get specific and learn, what the writing on the wall. There's a lot of things we have, like policies out there that have a lot of generalized broad terms, generalized topics and watered down subjects, but they don't really hit specifically race. They hit class and other issues, but not racial damage. The things that really, really impact the community, like we see in Anthony's video. So I think as a community, if we, and I know it's boring work, but if we learn to get a little more specific in understanding the legislative process and pushing, what is this law here, what is this bill here, what does this mean? Okay, well, we want this section written in for us, this protection or whatever, then we can get a little bit more done, because the law is where they're controlling, and so we're wedging our way in, you know, in the organization I told you about, but, you know, we need more of us. We're making things happen, but we need more of us. So I just think it boils down to specificity in that legislation. Pasadena is going to have to abide by certain laws if they're in place, if they're really, really driving them in. If we use that system, things can get done. It's just we're not in it in as much. We're not accessing to it. We don't have the same access to it. That's where a lot of people get justice. The other communities, you see justice all the time. They have specific policies in place, and that's what happens. So that's just my 2 cents. Okay.